Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Hawk Sports Show with host Alec Pequignot. Today's show is on my best fantasy football performance, waiver wire, guys to add off the waiver wire, guys to drop, and my third college football playoff rankings. Let's get right into it and get started. My best fantasy football performance from week 10 is Sam Howell of the Commanders, 372 yards, 3 touchdowns. I'm going to say he's not a set-it-and-forget-it QB1 rest of the season, but he's a mid-table quarterback 2 rest of the year. Now on to the waiver wire. And how I do the waiver wire is, as you see, it's under 80% rostered. And what I do is I give you one player from each position that is under 80% rostered. So the first guy under 80% rostered is QB Baker Mayfield from the Buccaneers. If you have a quarterback that is on bye week this week, I would advise to go pick up Baker Mayfield because they play the 49ers and they're going to have to throw the ball a ton against San Francisco. And he's 57.9% rostered. So if you want to round that up, that is 58%. So he's 58% rostered basically. The next guy that I would think about adding is if you need a tight end and you had Dallas Goedert and you're playing waiver wire right now because you don't have Goddard, I would think about adding Jets tight end Tyler Conklin. He's 11.1% rostered. And I like how they've utilized him in the last few weeks. I know they have a couple other tight ends they use, and Jeremy Ruckert and CJ Uzama, but Conklin is the main passing tight end. He's the main receiving the tight end they use when they're throwing the ball, and that is what I like. That gets you fantasy points. The next guy I'm talking about is Rondale Moore from the Cardinals, wide receiver, 33.2% roster. And the reason he is on here is because I was encouraged by what I saw from Kyler Murray in his first game and how many times he targeted all his receivers, including Rondale Moore. Now, with Rondale Moore, what I would do is I would add him, but I would not start him right away. I want to keep seeing where that target share goes between him, Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, Marquise Hollywood Brown. So I would add him, but wait to start him. My top running back ad is Ty Chandler. And he's only rostered in 3% of leagues, but with Alexander Madison going down and getting injured, I would, and this is if you need a running back. If you need running back, I would go out and add Ty Chandler, only 3% rostered. Yes, I would do that trade. Who's your other running backs? Bryce, who are your other running backs on that team? But yes, I would do that. I have been very encouraged by Rachaad White the last 3 weeks now and what he's produced in fantasy. as I was saying, I would go out and add Ty Chandler if you need a running back. If you're looking for a defense to add, if you still play with defenses, I'd go out and add the Commanders defense. 20.2% rostered. Or go out and add the Dolphins. One of those two DSTs is probably available in your league, most likely. And I would go out and I would add one of those two defenses. Oh, is Ty Chandler available in your league on waivers? Because if he is, I would go out and add him, and I would make that trade for Rachaad White, because you have more than enough depth at running back. And I would definitely make that trade. And if you're looking for a kicker to add, go add Texans kicker Matt Amendola, 20.2% rostered. Hey, no problem. I answer my subscribers' questions. Now here's some guys I would think about picking up and stashing and seeing what happens the next couple weeks, and if their roles expand and get bigger, or if their roles don't expand. The first guy I would go out and add is Panthers rookie wide receiver Jonathan Mingo. He's 8.1% rostered. And the reason I say to go out and add Jonathan Mingo is because I think he's going to have a big second half of the season. Because let's face it, I know Carolina's not going to win a lot of games, but they want to see if Jonathan Mingo, he was a second-round pick, I'm pretty sure. They want to see if he can be part of the future as one of the top 3 wide receivers. Because they've basically given up on Terrace Marshall. I have absolutely no clue what they're doing with Laviska Shenault. I know they want to try to use him like Debo, but have at it if you want. But I would go out and stash Jonathan Mingo. The second guy I would go out and stash is Ravens running back Keaton Mitchell. I just read an article this morning that John Harbaugh is saying that Keaton Mitchell is going to have a bigger role on Thursday night. So I would go out, I would run to your waiver wire right now, and if Keaton Mitchell's available on your waiver wire, I would add him. And if you're feeling risky, if you're feeling gutsy this week, I would actually start him, because he's overtaken Justice Hill for number 2 for the second running back on the Ravens. And these last 2 guys that I would stash, they're both rookies. Quentin Johnston from the Chargers, 33.1% rostered. He is going to have an expanded role probably until Josh Palmer comes back, and maybe after that, because he was a first-round pick. And I would hope that the Chargers believe in Quentin Johnston to give him the bigger role like they're doing right now without Josh Palmer and without Mike Williams. And Mike Williams has been out since earlier in the year when he tore his ACL, which I feel bad for him because he can't catch a break. And then the second guy I would stash out of this is Michael Wilson, rookie wide receiver for the Cardinals. 6.6% rostered. Again, like I said about Rondale Moore, I was very encouraged by the target share that was dished out by Kyler to Michael Wilson, to Rondale Moore, to Hollywood Brown, to Trey McBride. And Trey McBride is another guy I would go out and add off your waiver wire if you need tight end, if he is still available. He shouldn't be. He should be rostered in every league. Now we're going to go to the other end of the spectrum. Here's some guys to drop. The first one, and this one pains me, I was really high on him in the preseason and before the season started. Jordan Love of the Packers. I have a feeling that the Packers are probably going to move on from Jordan Love after this year. I know they took him in the first round. They wanted to see what they had, but I think Jordan Love's going to be a good NFL quarterback. I just don't think it's going to be with Green Bay. I think it's going to be with somebody else. And the Packers will draft their new franchise quarterback next year, maybe. This is another one that hurts me. Darrell Henderson is the next guy I would think about dropping. And this one's because of early season darling, Kyren Williams is due back in week 12. So this is probably your last week with Darrell Henderson being in your starting lineup. And I know that Kyren's not going to have the same type of workload that he had early in the season. But I think if you want to keep Darrell Henderson, you can. If you have Kyren, that's probably a smart thing to do as his handcuff. But I would, if you see somebody else on the waiver wire you like, and you're like, oh, who would I drop? It's probably going to end up being Darrell Henderson. The next guy I would think about dropping is Chargers tight end Gerald Everett, 31% rostered. And my reasoning behind why I would drop Gerald Everett is due to the fact that there's just too many mouths to feed in Los Angeles. You've got Eckler, Keenan Allen, Joshua Kelly, Quentin Johnston, Darnold Parham, Jalen Guyton. I just named you that's 5 guys I just named that get targets in LA for the Chargers. And Everett, he is the red zone, one of the red zone tight ends along with Parham. But they don't get that. They get their fair share of targets. But for me, it's not enough to be a viable top 15 option at tight end every week. The defense I would think about dropping is the Vikings, because let's just face it, their defense is not good. Not a good defense. And it's unfortunate. I thought the Vikings defense was actually going to be good this year, but I guess I was wrong. And the last guy I would think about dropping is kicker Ep54 from the Panthers. And this one's simple. They don't score enough points. And they have a rookie quarterback. Now, I will be giving you my college football playoff rankings. At number 25 in my college football playoff rankings, I have Oklahoma State. They moved down in my rankings because they lost last week against UCF. Some of these teams are the same. Some of them are new. North Carolina. They have found their way back into my playoff rankings. They were in the first installment, but then they dropped out. They're back at it 8-2 after barely winning the other on Saturday. Now, here's my problem with North Carolina is they win, but when it's close 2 or 3 point wins, and I understand a win is a win, but my way of taking a win is you win by 10 or more. But again, like I just said, a win is a win. Kansas is at number 23. They have a huge game this week against Kansas State, which unfortunately Kansas State is not, I don't believe, in my college football playoff rankings. But Kansas has had a good year again under Lance Leipold. And I think Leipold is going to be in consideration for a couple of the jobs that are open at Mississippi State, at Texas A&M, maybe at Michigan State. We'll just have to wait till the offseason and see. At number 22, Miami of Ohio. They did not move up or down even though they won. I left them. Actually, I think I moved them up 2 spots. I think they were number 24 last week. Now they're 22. I don't think, unless chaos happens in front of them. Correction. Number 22 is Iowa. My bad. I was looking at number 22 and then my eyes went down to number 21. My bad. Iowa. They have all but probably clinched the Big Ten West, even though it hasn't been confirmed yet that they've clinched. I'm pretty sure they're going to, because if you look at the conference record of everybody else in the Big Ten West, it is ugly. It is hideous. And I don't know what to say. I was one of the people that was not very high on Iowa this year, and I think I was wrong on that take. Now, number 21, Miami of Ohio. They were at 24 last week, and I moved them up 3 spots. Miami of Ohio, I was very high on Miami. I had them winning the MAC East division this year. I think they're going to. The thing is, they just need to win their last 2 games. And if you saw the show yesterday, I like them to cover this week. At number 20, SMU. SMU is another team I was high on SMU, actually. Very high. I had them finishing in the top 3 in the American this year. Not knowing that this would be their last season in the American Athletic Conference. Because if y'all didn't know, SMU is leaving the American to go to the ACC. And replacing them in the American Athletic Conference next year is going to be Army. But that's for next year. Number 19, Tulane. Tulane did move up. They were number 24 last week. SMU was number 25. So as you see, I do move teams up and down depending on how I feel about how they played, what their record against Power 5 is. Number 18, James Madison. I ranted about them the last 2 days. I think I ranted about them on last night's show. I'm going to do it again. NCAA, if you're watching this, And guys, let's put this out on social media so the NCAA can see this, please. Why won't you allow James Madison to be in a bowl game? I don't care if there's a rule in place that says they have to wait 2 years to be in a bowl game. They're undefeated. They deserve to be in a bowl game. You should not. This is ruining college football. The fact that you're not going to let James Madison, who's going to probably go undefeated, be in a bowl game. It's a travesty. We need to, on social media, we need to, as somebody, whether it be me or one of my subscribers, we need to start a movement on social media to get James Madison into a bowl game and have them be bowl eligible for a bowl game. Because it is sickening to me that the fact that they're going to probably go 12-0 and not be able to make a bowl game or their conference championship game, which just makes, just gets on my nerves. I apologize for the rant, but I had to get it off my skin. Number 17, Louisville. Louisville has had a good season, and I've been really surprised. I was not very high on Louisville this year at all. And I still feel like they could lose their last 2 games and give second place in the ACC to Virginia Tech. Because they're not going to beat Kentucky. And I don't know who you play this week, but you might not beat them. At number 16, Arizona. Arizona was another team. I looked at my Pac-12 standings I did before the season. I was not very high on Arizona. And I'm going to apologize right now. I'm sorry, Arizona fans. I was wrong. Very wrong. On the fact that I only had y'all winning 4 games. 4 games this year. And you've blown past that and won 7 with a chance to win probably 10 if you win your last 2 games, which would put you at 9, and then you win your bowl game. That puts you at 10. So I was very, very wrong on Arizona. Utah, I talked about them last night. On Sunday night when I did my other rankings. They're at 15, and it's because they've been winning, and they've been doing it without their starting quarterback, Cam Rising, which has, to say the least, it surprised me a lot on how good they've been without Cam Rising this year. And it's their defense. Utah's defense is something to behold. It's a scary good defense. Don't fool yourself. Number 14, Tennessee. The reason Tennessee's not inside the top 10 is obviously the 3 losses, for 1. And 2, they had a chance to beat Georgia. No. They played Georgia this week. But they had a chance against against Missouri and got throttled. And they've had chances throughout the year to impress, and they haven't. However, I do like their quarterback, Joe Milton. And I think if he goes pro this year, he could be a good pro. He could be a late 3rd round, 4th round pick. Number 13, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, the reason they're at number 13 is because they got whopped by Georgia. And Ole Miss was inside my top 10 last week when they only had 1 loss and now they have 2. So yes, you do get punished for losing. I do look at resumes also. So, and that's also how I do this: is I look at your resume and see who you've beaten that's good, bad, or in between. And I do like some of the teams Ole Miss has beat. They did beat Tulane, but that's at the beginning of the season when Michael Pratt was hurt. Number 12, Oregon State. Jonathan Smith has done a tremendous job rebuilding Oregon State. I think he is going to get a head coaching job at a really good school if he does leave Oregon State. If he doesn't, then and he stays at Oregon State, I think he gets a massive raise and a massive bonus. And I like Oregon State's chances to win 10 games this year. I was in the middle in Oregon State when I did my Pac-12 rankings. I had them right around 6th or 7th, I think. I know no, they were like 7th or 8th. I had Colorado 6th. And unfortunately, I don't think Colorado's going to finish 6th in the Pac-12. Number 11, Liberty. Liberty, I was debating whether to put them in front of Penn State. Seeing as though Penn State's 8-2, Liberty's 11-0. 10-0. I think after this week, if Liberty wins, they will be jumping Penn State. I've been very impressed with what Jamie Chadwell has done at Liberty this year. I thought when Hugh Freeze left to go to Auburn, I thought that was going to affect Liberty, and it doesn't seem like it's affected them at all. Number 10, Penn State. The only reason I have Penn State at 10 and not lower is because if you look at their resume, they have losses to 2 top 4 teams, in Ohio State and Michigan. But I'm sorry, Penn State fans, but I think James Franklin needs to go. I think y'all need a new coach because he can't get y'all over the hump and he can't get y'all to win big games. Y'all had so many chances to beat Michigan last week. I watched the game, and I watched every college football game. Y'all had a whale of opportunities to beat Michigan last week, and you blew it. Number 9, Oregon. Again, here's something I'm going to admit. I was wrong on Bo Nix. Bo Nix is a freaking great quarterback. And when I'm wrong about something, I admit it. I was wrong on Bo Nix. He should be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. He should be. Will he? We won't know. I think here's my 3 guys that I would want in New York for the Heisman. Bo Nix, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Michael Penix from Washington. So 2 Pac-12 guys and an Ohio State guy. Speaking of Michael Penix, at number 8, Washington. I see, yes, they are undefeated. Their resume, I don't really like their resume. I know they beat an undefeated Oregon, but still, if they beat Oregon again in the Pac-12 title game, they will move up in my final rankings, which will be the week before the playoff. At number 7, Texas. They just got Quinn Ewers back last week, and I liked what they did against TCU. On a sad note, though, Jonathan Brooks, running back for Texas, is out the rest of the year with a torn ACL. Rest up and speedy recovery. Get well soon, Jonathan Brooks. At number 6, Oklahoma. And I know what you're going to say. Why is Oklahoma this high? Because they have that win over Texas. That is the only reason they're in front of Texas. And that is the only reason that they are inside the top 10. I understand the 2 losses. That's why they were probably... You will see in my fourth installment of this rankings next week, you may see Oklahoma and Texas flip. So Texas only has 1 loss. Oh, at number 5, Alabama. And this is not really a rant. This is just me apologizing. Alabama fans, I'm sorry. I was wrong on you all season. I had you going 7-5 and not making the SEC championship game. But like I said, I admit when I'm wrong about stuff, and I was wrong about you. I didn't think you were going to be able to go 9-1 and maybe go, well, you will be 10-1. But the question is, can you beat Georgia in the SEC championship game? I hope you do, but I don't know if it's going to happen. At number 4, Michigan. Yes. Okay. I'm going to say this. I have a little more respect for Michigan. But at the same time, I will explain why I'm also still skeptical on it. And here in a second, after my rankings. But Michigan, they did beat Penn State. But the one issue I have with that win for Michigan is J.J. McCarthy barely threw the ball. And he could probably do the same thing against Maryland and just run the ball the whole game and win. But when you play Ohio State next week, that's not going to work. That is not going to work. I think that they will have to throw it against Ohio State to win. At number 3, Florida State. Undefeated 10-0. And I have been very impressed with the ways Florida State wins. And they do it rather convincingly. Like they struggled for a little bit at the beginning of their game Saturday against Miami. But then they turned it around and ended up winning rather convincingly. Here is where I have a little change in my rankings. At number 2, Ohio State. Yes, they played Michigan State last week and won, but I think they can move back up to number 1 if one or two things happens. If Georgia struggles against Tennessee and is not up by 20 at halftime, that's one way that Ohio State can move back up to 1. Or if Georgia loses to Tennessee, that's the other way Ohio State can move back up. And then at number 1, Georgia. I have been skeptical on Georgia the whole year due to the fact the amount of talent they lost the last 2 years to the NFL. But I'm starting to come around on Georgia. I think that they can win a national championship game. And then unfortunately, as an Ohio State fan, pains me to say that. I think they're still the favorites to win the national championship as long as they don't lose a game. And I told you I was going to talk about Michigan. Here's my stance on the whole Harbaugh. The Big Ten suspended Harbaugh for 3 games. He has 2 more left. He did not coach against Penn State, but he's got a hearing for a temporary restraining order on Friday, I believe. And he said he's going to be at that hearing. As you know, they play Maryland on Saturday at Maryland, and he's not allowed to coach. So my thing is, and I know what he's trying to do this. He wants to stick it in the Big Ten's face. But my thing is, if you get caught cheating, like they did, and then you try to deny it, and this isn't the first offense for Harbaugh. He got caught doing the same thing in the offseason, but this is sign stealing. He in the offseason, he got caught with a level 1 recruiting violation by buying food for his recruits. And that's why he got suspended for the first 3 games of the year originally. And then now this whole sign stealing thing. And I'm sorry, but you can't. There's no evidence that Ohio State, Purdue, and I think Maryland was the other team. No, it was Ohio State, Purdue, Rutgers. That those 3 teams took your signs, Michigan, and used them against you. How is that possible when you stole our signs for the last 2 years and you had a guy on your staff named Connor Stallions that had this whole 500-page the Michigan Manifesto, and you're out here trying to say that y'all weren't cheating, and that, well, evidence came out that he bought tickets to 30 Big Ten games, to 30 games, a bunch of them were Big Ten, and they were seats right next to the bench so he could see all these signs and take them back to Michigan and use them. And he's fired. But all y'all over here on social media before the game against Penn State on Saturday, and you put the word bet. I'm sorry, but Harbaugh's not innocent. He cheated. They got caught. And I want to know y'all's opinion in the comments. Do you think Michigan's innocent for what they did? Yes or no? And if y'all are just joining, welcome in. I offer memberships, and the memberships start at 99 cents a month is the cheapest one. The most expensive one is $9.99 a month. With all these memberships, you get neat perks. Like you get first dibs on fantasy football leagues for 2024. And I will be doing meetups in the future if y'all want, which I had posted that about a couple months ago, asking if y'all want meetups in the future. And a few of you said yes. So I will be releasing info on that coming up in the following months. But ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for tonight's stream. I will see you back here tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock for a rare episode of the Talk Sports Show on a Wednesday. So I will see y'all tomorrow morning for college basketball upset picks. Have a great rest of your night.